Picture this. You enroll in college prep high school, get perfect grades, resist the urge to drink or do drugs until you are well out of your parents' house. You double major in college and even date the same boy for 5 years, even though you know that you're gay. As a young adult, you delay marriage in lieu of grad school, you skip spring break to study, and you spend your summers and internships, all in the hopes of achieving the American dream. But when you walk off the stage, diploma in hand, ready to get into your cushy job and into the arms of your beloved, you are not met with any of that. No. Instead, you are met with one disappointment after another. No, this isn't a page out of some really sad but incredibly short novella. This was actually my life. See, up until the age of 21, I committed to making all the right decisions. Everything from my course of study to my social calendar was meticulously planned to guarantee me the utmost success. I was the consummate goody two-shoes. So you can only imagine my disappointment and anger when 4 years after graduation, I had 3 degrees, one of which was a master's degree, and no job. I was knee-deep in a quarter-life crisis, and I was mad. So mad that I would often sit in the middle of the floor of my empty apartment and scream, "Where is my stuff?" Seriously. Now, I know some of you have never heard of the quarter-life crisis, and for those that have, you probably think it's some temper tantrum that millennials throw when we can't get our way. But I assure you that's not the case. The quarter-life crisis is real. In fact, Abby Wilner defines the quarter-life crisis as the period of anxiety, questioning, and inner turmoil that accompanies the transition to adulthood. What she forgets to mention, though, is that it's also the period of unemployment, unsolicited weight gain, and overdrawn checking accounts that almost certainly accompany college graduation, especially in the past 10 years. Now, before I go on, I just want to address the elephant in the room. Yes, the midlife crisis and the quarter-life crisis sound the same, but they're drastically different. You see, in many ways, quarter-lifers are trying to find themselves in an effort to create themselves, whereas midlifers are kind of trying to lose themselves in an effort to recreate themselves. But the difference is quarter-lifers don't have the money to go out and buy a new Ferrari or a new wife when things get crazy. In fact, statistically, quarter-lifers don't have much of anything. Did you know that the unemployment rate for today's quarter-lifer is twice the national average? Or that the average American job hops 8 times before the age of 32? Or my personal favorite, the average student loan debt is $30,000. I owe $100,000, but who's counting? Semantics. So of course your next question is, okay, Kenya, so you're gonna do a TED Talk on unemployment, how original? But no. The quarter-life crisis isn't a big deal because of unemployment or even because of delayed family planning. It's a big deal because of the emotional damage that is done during this time. In many ways, the quarter-life is the birthplace to bitterness. If you ask me, it's the reason why young people seem so lost and depressed. The reason why your coworker or niece or nephew seems so distracted, it is because they are desperately trying to figure out at what point they lost control of their lives. Plus, guys, a college degree isn't like a pair of jeans that you order off the internet. If they don't fit, you can't just call customer service and send them back and get your time or money back. Quite the contrary, there's often no one to call, no one to blame, and no one to talk to. And so you blame yourself. You internalize the stress, and you convince yourself that you are fundamentally flawed and that you're not worthy of all the things that you've worked so hard to achieve. Well, okay, at least that's what I did. Because by the time I was 27, my life was an epic mashup of rejection letters and eviction notices. And I can tell you, it did not feel like questioning. It felt like being gutted from the inside out. It felt like I had failed before I had even gotten started. And it felt like being fired. Do you know I was fired 4 times in 4 years during my quarter life? 4 times, this many, almost a whole hand. I was fired. And I wasn't getting fired because I was late or because I was lazy. I was getting fired because I was young. See, my employers felt like I was very educated but not very experienced, right? So they asked me without regard, assuming that my youth and education would allow me to bounce back quick. But it did not. But here's the cool thing about being fired 4 times in 4 years. If there is a cool thing about being fired 4 times in 4 years, you start to get really creative about how you make money. So I decided to sell snow cones. Right. So none of the degrees are in business or sales or anything, but I'm going to sell snow cones, right? I go online and I pour all my money into a machine that was broken down. And I decide that I'm going to make a killing in the festival scene, right? I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and there's a huge St. Patrick's Day festival every year in Savannah. The advertisement said there would be 100,000 people there. Okay. Well, I must have thought that every person and their children and their pets were going to buy my shave ice because I made realistic projections of earning $52,000 that weekend. I thought I was going to earn $52,000 in 3 days selling $3 shaved ice. Well, no one prepared me for how cold 64 degrees feels when you're eating snow cones. Or how they like to put the new vendors miles away from the crowd just for kicks. We ended up being set up in the parking lot of a barbecue joint. So needless to say, I made so little money that night that I had to sleep in my car. The next day, I decided to spike the snow cones. It was totally illegal, but a little bit of vodka just helped me make the $700 I needed to get back home. When I got there, I found myself right back in the middle of the floor of that empty apartment asking, where is my stuff? My money, all I have is snow cones, and that's all. And this time I got an answer. I got 3 answers, and that's really what I want to share with you today. I realized I had been confused about 3 core elements, and that gaining clarity on those elements would help me find my ever-elusive stuff. So the first thing I realized is that there's a difference between being something and being someone. You see, for 2/3 of my life, I had been being asked the wrong question and then therefore seeking the wrong answer. Ever since I was knee-high to a turnip, someone has been asking me, Kenya, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, that question is problematic for 2 reasons. First off, it assumes that you're not being anything right now. And secondly, it assumes that being something is the goal. I wanted to be a pediatrician. Everybody wanted to be a pediatrician. I'm really surprised that there's any childhood illnesses based on all of the pediatricians that were in my 1st grade class. But the problem is, guys, a pediatrician isn't a purpose. A pediatrician isn't a personality, it's a job. So what if you're like those quarter-lifers I just told you about and you can't get the job? Or you're like me and you can't keep the job? Who are you then? Can you imagine the difference your life would have taken on had you been asked just one time who you wanted to be versus what you wanted to be? And for my non-quarter lifers, I have something for you too. Part of the reason why young people think we have to do things a certain way is because we watched our parents waste their lives in jobs they hate, relegating their talents to the weekend or worse yet, retirement. So be compassionate with the young people in your life, but also don't be afraid to ask yourself who you want to be. It's not too late. The second thing I had been confused about is that there's a difference between a math tutor and a tennis coach. You see, most of us spend all of our time and energy trying to improve on a skill that we know we lack, i.e. getting a math tutor, versus trying to master a skill that we already have, i.e. getting a tennis coach. So no, I'm not saying give up math, but I'm saying spend some time developing the thing that you're already good at. And that's not a backhanded way of me telling you how to follow your dreams. In fact, I don't think you should follow your dreams. Most of us can only dream as big as we have seen, which means if we haven't done it or seen someone close to us do it, we think we can't do it. But that's not true. You can do anything you put your mind to. And the last thing that I wanted to share with you is that everything comes from nothing, and I just didn't understand that. Everything, literally everything, was first an idea. I mean, we're here celebrating ideas worth spreading. And the cool thing about ideas is that ideas come from people, not from money or from titles or even from first grade pediatricians. So that means that your life can be as big as you think it can be. And sometimes the easiest way to nurture a new idea is to abandon all hope in an old idea. In that way, the Quarterlife is the perfect place to begin. When I was 28 years old, I got the word space tattooed on my arm to remind me that I am the space that gives birth to all things in all life. So I want to leave you with a piece of advice. The next time you feel lost and depressed, which will happen, I don't want you to panic. Instead, I want you to take a second, take a deep breath, get quiet, maybe Indian style, close your eyes, imagine yourself in an empty room. But instead of asking, where is my stuff? Ask, who can I create from my nothing? Thank you.